Hey guys, it's Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing what I normally do when new content is coming out. I'm going to give my preemptive, theoretical, hypothetical teams that I think are going to be very good for these new hard mode dungeons. I will go over the mechanic changes between the current dungeons and the new dungeons, the new boss mechanics, in sort of a very, very loose definition. We don't have any information in terms of the speed, accuracy numbers, or any of the boss multipliers, any of the sort of attack changes. So these theoretical teams are very subjective to if we're able to clear the waves, if we're able to do enough damage to the boss. It really depends on how they balance hard mode. Now, there is some data in the game code which I haven't released publicly because it doesn't look complete, and I don't release incomplete information, which seems to suggest that they're going to position the accuracy numbers and the resistance numbers around about 300 to 350, and the boss's speeds around about 150. But there are no boss models in the game code, so this is very subjective to whatever they place as the base values for those bosses. So I'm expecting it to be around that, because ultimately it seems pretty impossible to be able to fight 21 attacks against a 250 speed Fire Knight boss, for example. So we're going in with a few assumptions. We're going to have a look at the mechanics, and then I'm going to give you sort of the teams that I'm already preparing to run and preparing to build. And also I will kind of pull out the highlight MVPs of the new specific roles that you're going to need to potentially build champions for. So watch this video before you invest any resources into some new champions, because there is a lot of misleading information that could potentially guide you down the wrong path. Now, I would say we don't know when hard mode dungeons are coming. However, it seems pretty soon, very imminent. Normally when they do the what's next, it doesn't take too long. We were a bit surprised that Clan vs Clan was cancelled. That suggested that it would be coming during Clan vs Clan, but we haven't seen it come as of yet. I'm recording this as of 4 o'clock on Wednesday, which means that likelihood is it's not going to be a patch today. So that's a bit surprising, because that's obviously a revenue loss for Plarium. Now, there was a note in the game here where we had all the news about the summons, the legendary summon party, where we'll be launching special packs containing items that will help you in hard mode dungeons from the 27th to March the 2nd. So that suggests potentially we could see a patch tomorrow or Friday, although generally they don't like doing patches on Friday in case the game breaks. So we don't really know, essentially. We could be a week out, we could be less than a week out. So it's important that we start thinking ahead for those hard mode dungeons. Now, the only other thing I would add before we get into this is there will be a question, should I do hard mode dungeons? And I think looking at some of the game data that I have, again, I'm not releasing it because it doesn't look final, and it could be it could change, right? So I'm not going to put it out there in the public domain and then it change, because the video will be out of date pretty quickly. But it looks like that if you are farming stage 25 dungeons currently, there is no reason for you not to farm stage 10 hard. You'll get better 6-star legendary odds for the same amount of energy, and also you'll gain the chance to get mythical artifact. Now, I would say because of the energy issue, unless they really, really ramp up those mythical artifact rates, you're probably still going to find that for dungeon divers and tournament points, you're still going to be running stage 20 for efficiency if you want the most amount of dungeon divers and the most amount of tournament points per refill. The stage 10 hard will yield on average more points per run. However, the extra energy cost, the 4 extra energy cost, means that you're going to lose a run in the refill, which you would obviously get from the other from stage 20. So in terms of should you do hard mode dungeons, I think anyone who's doing 25 should consider it. And I think, eventually mythical artifacts are going to be the S tier gear. Now, of course, they'll probably offer mythical packs at some point for mythical gear, but in the short term, I think it's a fun challenge, 2, and I think it will give you mythical gear. So let's get into the 4 new dungeons. We're basically getting tainted versions of the same bosses, where there is some modifications to what the bosses do. We don't really have any information about the waves as of yet. Traditionally, the dragon waves are easier than, say, Fire Knight waves. The Fire Knight wave is one of the hardest waves in PvE content to clear. So this is not really assuming any information about the wave content, although I am planning a team that can actually do it. I'm kind of going in reverse. I'm looking at what team I need to beat the boss, then trying to fit a team that can clear the waves, rather than going, what can I do to get to the boss? It's just a better mechanic. So with Tainted Dragon, we've got pretty much only very small changes here. The boss is going to apply more poisons on a longer duration. It looks like it does about 4 3-turn poisons with poison sensitivity, and the breath secret skill is now going to activate all poisons on targets. So essentially, if you take a poison, you are probably going to die very quickly. It means you can't really ramp up your defense and try and tank it because poisons are based on your max HP. If there's a lot of poisons, it's going to kill you. He also is going to give himself increased attack on as a buff when he starts the round, by the looks of it. So there is basically a strategy here where you need to consider the poisons and consider the buff. However, I actually looked at the video and I noticed that Duchess was resisting. And if we consider that the accuracy and resistance levels will be around about 300, then we are looking at sort of a Doom Tower style 450 accuracy resistance level in order to make sure you resist those poisons, which if you're at that number, there is options. So my proposed solutions here is you kind of run the same team that you're already doing, but you just boost the resistance on whatever is killing the boss. That's one strategy, right? If you're running a solo option, like Gnishak probably will need more resistance, or Tomb Lord will need more resistance, or Bad El will need more resistance. That's kind of all you need to do, because if you take away those poisons out of the kit, then all you're dealing with is on-hit damage, and as long as the boss isn't hitting you for that much damage, which you can just defeat via having base defense, you're probably okay. Option 2, if you don't have kind of like that kind of boss killer style team, is you bring a cleanser into your team, someone like a Hakon Smasher Lord, someone like that Marichka OP champion, basically someone who can cleanse the team and then keep yourself away from the poisons. And it's kind of like a bonus thing you want to do here, where you kind of want to bring someone who can get rid of that increased attack, either as just when you start the round, just get it and then take it away, or can steal it more regularly, just so that it reduces the amount of incoming damage you're taking, because increased attack can add a lot. So here is my proposed team that I'm going to be running. I already run a team of 4 of which is Armiger, Seer, Renegade, and Ghostborn. The only change I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop the damage roll that I have in position 5, which at the moment is like Crutrax or Whisper, and I'm going to bring in Vergamkar, because Vergamkar brings a resistance aura in all battles, and also brings the ability to steal or remove that buff. So you get 2 for 1, and you just kind of want to run him slow. So the concept of this team is going to be Vergamkar is going to be basically running very little speed and just high accuracy, enough that he takes a turn before the boss takes a turn. And then we are going to allow the Seer, Ghostborn, and Renegade to kill the waves. My Seer is like super strong, so I'm able to do that. And then when we get to the boss, we want everyone to die apart from Armiger, and Armiger is just going to be in a high resist crit damage build. The boss will be capped at 10%, so we don't need to go crazy on the crit damage. For example, on Hydra, my Royal Guard is only running at 160% crit damage, and that's suitable for Nightmare Hydra. So you don't really need an awful lot of crit damage. He's defense based, so he's naturally tanky. Put him in reflex and just keep A2 in the boss. For me, the Tainted Dragon is very, very little changes, very little tweaks. In terms of alternative options here, if you don't run the Armiger, like you could run a Bad El in this position and basically keep yourself alive, run Gnishak. You can see the framework. Bring someone to kill the waves and then bring a solo champion to just basically kill the boss down. Ninja could do that position as well. There is potential that even Gnishak will be able to solo hard 10 because he just does a lot of poisons. And that's kind of all you need to do, is do lots of poisons. And all he needs is accuracy poison and the ability to stay alive. So that is key. Now, obviously, you will not be able to control the waves. You won't be one-shotting the waves, so you need to make sure you can stay alive from the waves, which is more of the threat. But that is my preferred Tainted Dragon team. Vergamkar, Renegade, Ghostborn, Seer, and Armiger. Next up, we got Tainted Spider. So the Tainted Spider is, again, different. Now we're going to have the HP burn healing the Queen. Previously, Spider 25 teams were pretty much Sisia, Tumacia, AoE HP burn with AoE crowd control. And that was the idea. You basically let the Spiderlings burn the Queen, and the Queen eventually died. Roughly somewhere between 9 seconds to 30 seconds, depending on the MVP champions that you've got. Now the Queen is going to heal for 1% or 2%. It looks like it's not like it burns for about 3%. It heals for a little bit less, something like 1%. So probably you're going to lose somewhere in the region of 30 to 50% of the burn potential. Burning is not really going to be viable because the Queen is going to be able to take a turn. You can't turn me to control the Queen anymore. I think burn is an option. I think it could still work. But generally, I think they're trying to say you can't burn this. You can't just burn it to death now. So the change here that's most significant, spiderlings are going to do damage to the queen. Now I was looking at the video, it does around about 454,000 damage to the queen that we were looking at. We don't really know how much of a percentage of the maximum that is, but I would say it's somewhere between 5 to 10% of the boss's HP. So you're either going to need 1 full round of killing spiderlings or 2 full rounds of killing spiderlings. So I'm going to assume 2 to be safe in my solutions here. And then the other thing to note, spiderlings are immune to freeze, but they're not immune to stun. So I don't really think that's a major issue. You just bring a stun champion like an Astralon instead of a freeze champion. There are actually more AoE stun options than there are freeze. What are the solutions here? Obviously option 1, as I mentioned, bring AoE damage and kill spiderlings. Basically what you normally did with stage 1 to 14. You just AoE'd the hell out of them. Option 2 is still bring HP burn, but you're going to have to build in more reset and survival capabilities into your team. You're not going to be able to speed do it like you can currently. And as I mentioned, as a bonus, stun still works, but freeze doesn't. So just bring an AoE stun to deal with the spiderlings. Otherwise, they are going to kill your team unless you have some sort of clever strategy in terms of like a paragon targeting. So how am I going to be killing the spiderling? Well, I'm going to be using an OP champion in the game. We're going to be using Akimtum. So the idea with this team is we're going to run a Stone Skin Duchess. That is my Arena Duchess, who is going to veil the entire team, which means the spiderlings can only target Duchess. We're going to go Orogrim into the Hex from Akimtum, into Venomage's poisons, and the spiderlings are going to die from Akimtum's passive. Once that happens, we're going to reset and reapply them. And then if there are any leftover spiders we need to do damage to, we are going to just A1 the boss with Akimtum and spread those debuffs out with his kit and his ability. If anyone hasn't seen Akimtum, check my channel. There is a couple of videos on him. He's really strong for this. And right now I've tested him on Spider 25 and he can nuke the entire Spider 25 wave before the queen takes a turn without any turn meter control. So his damage potential and damage profile is really high. And that is how I'm going to be running this. And I'm going to be putting him in a stun set because his passive will activate the stun artifact set. So when any spiderling takes a turn, every single one of them are going to get stunned. The cool thing about Venomage is we can activate the Akimtum passive by using her A1. So if we need to get more stuns out there and more activations, hopefully the Venomage can target the queen and just basically get them out. So that's how we're going to do that. We're going to use Akimtum to kill the wave, and the wave is going to kill the queen. You could, of course, in this run, just your normal HP burn like Sissia and something like that, but you're just going to have to like bring a little bit more to your team to keep them alive. You might need to bring some reset, and it could be slower. We'll have to see how it goes when the stats get released. Next up is probably the hardest of the bunch, in my opinion. I think it's harder than Fire Knight. We've got the Tainted Ice Golem. So this is a complete change to the way that we currently beat the Ice Golem. Most teams that I've seen that run Ice Golem are either running the OP Theodore Calvalax combo and they kill it with poisons, or they're running some sort of Bad El Tomb Lord or Frozen Banshee or Dark Kale style nuke team where you basically use Seer to kill the side minions and then never activate the boss's passive and activate the poisons and use poisons to kill the boss. Well, the boss is now immune to poisons. So all of those strategies and all of those plans go out the window. Theodore is not going to be able to kill the boss. It's just not going to happen. So all of the OP teams all of a sudden in Ice Golem are going to have to change. Additionally, his A2 ability, the Crisis A2 ability for the Ice Golem, is going to fully cleanse himself from all debuffs and also drop your team's turn meter. And the HP burn they've noted does 10% more damage. Now, in my opinion, that's a bait and it's not actually that good because 10% of 3% is only 0.3%. So HP burn is going to deal 3.3%. It's a lot less desirable when you realize if a boss has got 1,000,000 HP, I'm going to do about 10,000 damage on a HP burn. So I'm only going to be doing, 10% more of 10,000? So I'm going to be doing 1,000 more damage. It's really poor. Like 10% more burn is really, it's insignificant. It's negligible. It's pointless. So them kind of highlighting that HP burn is the way to go isn't necessarily false, but it's making it sound like HP burn is going to do a lot more damage than it actually really is going to. You got to keep in mind that there's only going to be one ally. You know, if the allies are up, then sure, you can get like 9% per rotation, but you don't really, I don't really think you're going to want to keep those allies up because the boss's damage is going to scale way too high. So what are the solutions for Ice Golem? I think we're going to go back to the teams that used to block revive the side minions, and then you kill the boss with whatever strategy you want. You could do a boss killer like an Acrisia. You could use a ninja or a Chronum. Like Chronum Jamasa could be quite good here. You could use just a raw maximum HP on hit damage team. But I think that's what you're going to do. You're going to bring those, you're going to block revive the minions, and then you're just going to nuke the boss. I think that's going to be the fastest way because there is no other source of damage other than an activator of HP burn that's going to kill it as quickly as a max HP nuke. Option 2 is to bring HP burn, but you're going to need to stay alive long, and it's going to be, I think it's just going to be so slow. As a bonus here, I would recommend you look to bring some sort of AoE decrease attack or a decrease attack champion in a sense that you can reliably place it on the boss, because 9 times out of 10, that's the biggest issue in Ice Golem, is trying to make sure that the boss has decreased attack. He's going to cleanse himself, which is going to make it harder. So here is my rough team. This one I'm not very confident on. I haven't really played around with Ice Golem. My understanding and my feeling is going to be a lot less people are going to be pushing hard 10 Ice Golem just because of the complexity and the slow times that they're going to get. There could be obviously ways to improve this with OP teams. These teams, I should have mentioned at the start, are based on the champions that I own. So I don't have a Theodore Calvalax, a Crizia, don't have those champions, so that's why they're not included here. But you could, of course, substitute anything out from these teams for those OP champions. So I think, actually, this is a good opportunity to use the boosted and buffed Vladimir with Constantine. When they pair together, Constantine will block revive any target. So what you get in that pairing is you get an AoE decreased defense for the waves, an AoE block active skills for the waves, an AoE leech alongside the ability for Vlad to stay alive. Constantine then converts all of his abilities to being a block revive ability. He's got a Phenax A1, he's got a very strong A3 which resets if you kill a target. And I think just generally, I think the pairing here is going to be very valuable because I think it's going to help you get through the waves. You can even build a bit of damage into Vladimir here because he does have a double AoE with some damage. We also have 50% turn meter drop on the Vladimir for the waves, so it's just going to mean that we can get through it. Then I'm bringing Ninja because the idea is once we get to the wave, we want to kill the allies and then use Ninja to kill the boss. He is our boss killer here. A Crizia would be a fine, if not better, substitution, I think, just because you're going to be able to max HP the boss down much quicker. I've then chosen to use Necret the Great. I picked him up recently because what we're going to be able to do is protect the Constantine, which means hopefully we can get some bonus damage on the minions with his ally attack, which will then reset, which hopefully we should be able to get at least one of the allies down very, very quickly, because that's the goal. We need to get rid of one of the allies very, very quickly to reduce the incoming damage our team is going to take. We can do that with Necret. He's also going to give some buffs and various different things. And then we need a Duchess really for the increased attack and also the survivability, the revive. She just kind of fits this position really nicely. But I am very much, I would say I'm a lot less confident about this team right now. I don't know how quickly it's going to be able to clear the waves. I don't know how quickly it's going to be able to kill the side minions. What we do have here is a lot of AoE, so we need to be careful when we get to the boss that we don't do too much damage to the boss before the side minions arrive. But every single one of these champions typically have a single target A1. And we could probably get away with not actually using the abilities until we kill one of those allies. The obvious risk you've got is, will someone other than Constantine kill the side allies? Because then you've got to get that speed tuned. So this is going to take the most amount of effort for me to speed tune, the most amount of time. But I think this is the strategy for the best team. You bring someone that can block revive the allies, and then you bring someone like an Acrizia, a Ninja, a Chronum to just kill the boss as quickly as possible. You could, if you wanted to, instead of using Vlad and Constantine, go kind of like a Calvalax Zarvia perspective, because I would imagine the minions are still still able to be poisoned. So you could try and block revive them with a poison exploder Zarvia. I think that's a viable option as well. But when I was looking through my roster, I was thinking this might be a good time to try out these duo. They are Void Legendaries. I mean, we're using 3 Void Legendaries plus a champion you can't acquire and Duchess. This isn't me saying this is the team you should build. This is me going from my list of champions. I think this is the best option that I have. There are alternatives to all of these positions. You can bring different wave controls if you want to. You could even bring Seer for the waves and then somehow let her die and solo the boss maybe with Ninja if you can make sure that those side minions get block revived. That's the problem here. Normally, the teams that we would normally run, Seer would kill wave 1, she'd get a reset, she'd kill wave 2. I then run a second reset on the boss, kill the side minions with Seer, but not enough to actually proc the boss's passive. And then I have Frozen Banshee that just puts poisons on the boss until he dies. So we never really revive those minions. But if those minions revive, Frozen Banshee is dead. So I think that's the challenge you're going to have here. Can you find the right balance? It's going to be the worst dungeon, I think. And I'm probably going to have to do a follow-up video to try and give you guys some options to actually get through it once I can see the data and the stats and I've got some play testing that I can do. Next up, we have got Tainted Fire Knight. This one is probably going to scare more people, but I think it's not so bad. The changes here are pretty significant. Firstly, we're going to 21 stacks from 12. This is why I don't think they're going to scale the speeds too high, because trying to get 21 stacks down is already quite difficult. 21 stacks without any ally attack, reflect, and counterattack is essentially, on average, 4.2 attacks per champion in your team if they were going one rotation. So yes, you can get them with Phantom Touch, but that basically means you need at least double hitters minimum. So I think there must be a reasonable effort to try and keep the turn meter down, otherwise it's going to be impossible. The biggest change, the biggest thing that everyone's going to look at, he's immune to turn meter control. So that 5-star Allure that you've been using, you know, the 5 out of 5 that we rank on the website, Allure is one of the best champion. Almost Allure is like mandatory for Finite 21 to 25, unless you have like a crazy Halls Rings. That's not going to matter anymore. Hall's Ring is going to go out of hard finite meta. You can't drop the turn meter. Additionally, every attack that you do against the shield when the shield is up is going to reduce 1% of your max HP. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have to constantly take the shield back down, you're going to lose a lot of maximum HP. He also does a 15% on his A2, I think, but that's kind of like what he used to do on the A1, so it's not so bad. But what is different with this Tainted Finite is Freeze is going to drop the boss's turn meter by 15%. I've had a few people ask me, is that going to be halved or reduced by the boss's passive? I don't think so. I think it's going to be 15% fixed. I think it's going to be unique. I don't think it's going to be relevant to the drop in turn meter. Otherwise, they would tell you 7.5%. So I think it's going to be every freeze debuff you do is 15% turn meter off the boss. So how do we beat this boss? You've got 3 options really for dealing with the stacks. You've either got option 1, which is counterattack. Option 2 is reflect, a reflect buff. And option 3 is ally attack. Now, I prefer ally attack if we can keep the shield, the turn meter down. If we can keep the turn meter down, then ally attack gives you the momentum and the opportunity, 1, to do more damage, and 2, to be able to get that shield down quicker so you can start getting the freeze debuffs on. If you need counterattack, you have to get hit yourself. But what I would say is if you can't keep the shield down because of the turn meter, then I would say counterattack is better, because you can bring someone like a Martyr or a Valkyrie that's going to give you innate tanky survivability at the same time. I think Reflect is going to be the worst option here, because you lose the benefits of the counterattack, the additional attacks to get that shield down, and also most Reflect champions are they don't really bring much else to the team. So I think I'm really looking at this first as an ally attack with an option for a counterattack, someone like a Martyr or Valkyrie. Now again, counterattack is a problem. There's only 3 champions in the game that offer AoE counterattack. And you're not going to want to bring Skull Crusher. He only attacks once on his A1. You're probably going to want to bring either Valkyrie or Martyr. Martyr mainly because she brings priority debuffs and the increased defense. Valkyrie would give you 2 attacks on the A1. You've got to keep that in mind. Any champion that you try to put into your team, if they're not going to do multi-attacks on the A1, are you going to have problems getting that shield down? Best option 1 for me is ally attack into multiple freeze champions to permanently keep the turn meter down. This is very subjective to how fast the boss is going. Option 2 is you run counterattack into a miracle healer, because I think the max HP is going to become too strong, and you would then bring freeze to just try and help mitigate, but you wouldn't be investing so hard into freeze in option 2. I think in terms of killing the boss, I think the best option is War Master and Poisons. I don't think, obviously you can use a Crizia if you want to, but I think generally just War Master, Poisons, and max HP will be the way to go. So how am I going to beat the Finite? This is a team that I've worked the most on. I've worked on it on stream. I'm going to be using Akimtum again. Akimtum will help me get through the waves. Akimtum might not be necessarily the fastest wave clearer, but he can effectively clear high HP content without needing any sort of debuffs. We don't need decreased defense or decrease or weaken or anything like that with Akimtum on the team, because he's doing poison percentage damage. So the harder the content, the same efficiency. He's going to clear stage 1 as quickly as you clear stage 25, 10 hard, because it's all based on max HP. We're then going to be bringing Yakal. I think Yakal is going to be the biggest MVP of this update. Everyone who hasn't got Yakal from Clan Gold, start getting him from Clan Gold. He's outside of Finite. He's such a great champion. I've used him more now since I've been testing him. He's so good. He's very, very good. 100% get Yakal if you haven't got him out of Clan Gold. He is by far the best freezer in the game. By far. Every ability he does freezes. His A2 freezes, his A3 freezes, he's got a double freeze on his A1. He is going to do a lot of turn meter control here. Yakal, for me, is the MVP. We even saw it in the video they used Yakal. I think that's kind of like why he was put into the clan shop. Then we've got Longbeard. Longbeard is probably the best ally attacker, the only one I would replace with Longbeard is Cardiel because you get the ally attack, the joint attack on his passive. So you get an extra hit. But outside of that, Longbeard is probably just as good because it's a 20% boost of damage, and then it's all allies, including himself. Alternatives to Cardiel and Longbeard are probably Lonatharil. He's the only other all allies, or you could run Farak in the Fat, but keep in mind Farak in the Fat doesn't attack himself, so you need to lose his attacks from your sort of how many hits am I doing. Then we've got Dark Kale here coming in. So the problem I'm concerned about with Akimtum, he's a triple hit A1 poison with a 50% chance to place a poison on the A1. Now the risk that you have with Akimtum is he applies too many poisons to the boss if you're keeping the turn meter down permanently, which means if you've got 10 debuffs on the boss, do you run out of debuff space to apply the freeze? And as such, does the actual turn meter reduction not happen? Now it could be that the placing the freeze, because it never goes as a debuff, will be fine. But it could also be that if we have run out of space, we can't place the debuff, therefore the freeze can't happen, therefore we can't keep the turn meter down. So a solution to that is you run an activator, and there is not much better activator outside of Theodore than Dark Kale. If I had Theodore would be going in here. But you got to remember as well, Theodore kind of extends the poisons before he activates. So it's actually not as desirable, but he does do an AoE activator. So if we had Theodore, we'll probably kill the waves about 30% to 40% quicker. It's a massive increase. But without Theodore, I think the best option is Dark Kale because he's a triple hit A1. So that's the champion I'm going to be running here. The idea is Akimtum is going to set the poisons up and Dark Kale is going to knock them down. I'm going to run Dark Kale and Yakal in Relentless to try and maximize their abilities in terms of the A1. When we get to the boss, Dark Kale is just going to A1 constantly. Just keep poisoning. The faster we can kill him through poisons, the quicker the boss goes down. And then finally, the other MVP I think for Fire Knight is going to be Gory. Gory has a A2 on a 3-turn cooldown, which has a 100% chance to place freeze each hit, and it's a triple hit. So effectively, as long as the 15%, as we've said, is 15%, he's got a 45% turn meter reduction on the A2. I'm going to be running my Gory in Reflex, so he can basically rotate back. I'm disabling the A3, I'm just A2ing with Reflex and Refresh, because every time we refresh and reflex, we're just going to increase the chances that we can keep that turn meter down. Now, we have to, of course, estimate this on the lowest possibilities. So there's a possibility that we can't keep it down with just Yakal and Gory. They're the only two freeze champions here. But I think if you run them in Relentless and Reflex here, I think there's a very good chance you can do a lot of turn meter reduction. He also can help a little bit on the waves in terms of his A1 and freezing and different things like that. But I think Gory is the other champion that I would 100% recommend. Some other things to note here, I am running a 3-star Phantom Touch on Yakal and a 3-star Phantom Touch on Dark Kale. Phantom Touch counts as a hit to the Fire Knight shield, so the higher chances you can get from Phantom Touch, the better. And the thing about Phantom Touch is it's per attack. So if you've got a triple attack at, say, rank 3, there's a 30% chance that you're going to do Phantom Touch per attack. You can only do it once, so you all you want it to do is roll once. It means that actually when it's a rank 3 Awakening Dark Kale, he has around about like a 66% chance. And I think a rank 3 Yakal on an A1 has around about a 51% chance to get a Phantom Touch proc when you work out the probabilities. So that is the team that I'm running. I'm pretty sure I can pop the shield with an ally attack into one single rotation with these attacks. The nice thing about Gory as well is a triple hit, so you know, I think his A1 is a double hit as well. So you're getting every one of these champions apart from Longbeard are multi-hitters. So that is my Fire Knight team. There are some substitutions you could do here. I'm sure some people will come in with like Theodore versions, with Acrisia versions, but I don't, my concern here is how do you get enough champions in your boss killing team to support someone like a Seer? Where are the buffs coming from in this team? Because it feels like Yakal is almost like locked in. If you can't bring any more freezes, you're going to need to bring a healer. That's another spot. So you're already down to 2 spots, and you're going to need to have some sort of ally attack or counterattack. Now, you could run someone like a Valkyrie Martyr. They've got double buffs. That might be enough. It depends on how difficult the waves are. But right now, I'm assuming that it's going to be very difficult to fit the buffs plus Seer in your team. So let's just talk about a few other champions that I haven't mentioned, but that I think are going to be very good that you might want to consider investing in. So in terms of freeze champions, we were talking about the Fire Knight. Freeze is going to be the big thing there. We don't really use freeze in an awful lot. What I've tried to focus on with these champions are champions that can reliably and consistently apply freeze on a regular basis. So we're not looking at 5-turn cooldown, 100% chance to apply 1 freeze, because ultimately, when you work it out, that's barely any freeze at all. So it wouldn't be very beneficial. So I've looked at champions that basically either have it on an A1 or have it on some sort of regular basis or bring extra things that make them more valuable. So obviously we mentioned your Carl. Every single ability does freeze. The other champion to consider is a relatively new one is Durandil. Now his A1 I think has a 30% chance when it crits to place freeze, but he attacks 2 times. So you're getting multi-hits with a 30% chance each time. So on average, it's not going to be guaranteed, but you could have a good chance to apply freeze every time he A1s. Sir Nicholas has a irresistible A1 freeze on a 50% chance, also brings unkillable. So if you're struggling to stay alive, you can't get the turn meter down all the time, he's probably a good, interesting option to consider. And I think Gory is like totally MVP. I think if you've got a Gory in your vault, I've already maxed mine to 60 and put masteries in him. That's how confident I am Gory is going to be MVP. I think he's going to be so good. Another long forgotten daily login champion, Alexander. Simple if you're ever into CSGO. Actually not bad for this encounter. He's got a 50% chance A1 freeze and a decreased defense on the A2. So that means you're going to get a 50-50 chance every time he attacks on an A1, but you also get a decreased defense as well. And he also does a fair amount of damage, so it can help you with wave clear potentially if you can't run a Seer or don't have a Seer. If you've got Alexander, he might be an interesting option for this dungeon. Gurgo the Augur I've included because of his extra turn. So he essentially has a 3-turn freeze on an extra turn with an A1 double attack. Now, the good thing, the reason why I've included him mainly is he's going to help you get through the wave. He's got that AoE freeze. So if you're struggling to clear waves, then he might help you there. Another example you could look at, we're starting to go down the value list here. Exemplar. She hits 3 times on the A1 if she critically hits. She's kind of like Harken Greatblade's elven sister, for a better word. And then she's got a freeze on the A3, which is 100%. But it's a 3-turn or a 4-turn cooldown, so it's not as strong as Gory. Gory does 45% every 3 turns. She's going to do 15% every 3 turns, so it's significantly weaker, 66% weaker. And then I've included her here, but I would be very careful about investing in Shiramani. This is the warning of the video. This is the clickbait of the video. Shiramani, I think, is going to be bait. I think Shiramani will be used if you can't keep the turn meter down, because her A1 isn't each hit. It sounds like it is. It looks like it is, but I don't think it is. I've looked at the code twice. I've double checked it. It looks like she attacks 3 times at random, and then she just places freeze. So if she's attacking the same chance, she doesn't get subsequent attempts at placing freeze. I think she just attacks a single target, and then it basically either freezes or it doesn't. I think it's a 1 roll. I think her A1 is going to be like a Light Swan, where he hits 3 times, but it's only 1 attempt that he can place the debuffs. It's only 1 roll of those debuffs. So you do get a freeze on the A3 and you get some healing on the A2, but I don't think she's going to be as good as someone like a Yakal and Gory for keeping turn meter down. But if you need the healing, then she might be a viable option. So that's kind of like, I think she's a bit like, I've seen a lot of people saying Shiramani's going to be really good. I don't think she's going to be as good as everyone thinks she's going to be. Now let's talk about some block revives for Ice Golem. These are kind of like what I would say the best options. You've got a Fenax as an A1 that you can use. Anytime he attacks a target with an A1, he kills them. He'll hit really, really hard if there's a debuff out on that target. So you put decreased defense with an A1, he's going to do a substantial amount of damage. The only challenge with Fenax is keeping him alive, but if you can keep him alive, he also brings other utility. He brings a decreased defense and speed on his A3 for the boss. He brings a block buffs AoE, block active skills AoE. It's just not 100% those debuffs, right? He's an epic champion. But an A1 nuker, block revive, he's one of the best. I even use him in my arena teams right now. We've mentioned Constantine, pairs well when you've got Vlad on the team. Xavier is an option. Poison Explode on that A2 will block revive. And you've also got a Blood Gorged as well. I should note it looks like the waves are all void at stage 10, so affinity is going to be less problematic. Finally, we have 2 more options. Anithwi Blood Twin probably is a great option as well. Every time he kills someone, he blocks revive. And you can always fall back to the Rotus, where eventually, once he steals enough maximum HP, he's going to block revive when he does his A3 ability. Lots of extra turns. So yeah, that could just require a bit of balancing in terms of trying to get his maximum HP into the right level. Those are the best block revivers in the game. I think you're probably going to lean towards something like an E3 Blood Twin Xavier, Fenax, or Constantine before you go to the Rotus. Someone who can reliably do it in a very well sped tune. Rotus is going to take a while to get to that maximum HP number he requires to be able to block revive. And finally, let's just talk about some like champions that are very good at boss killing. So I've included these across all 4 dungeons. Frozen Banshee obviously used to be very good for Ice Golem, but I've included it here for the dragon. Once she gets going, she puts out more poisons than most enemy things. If you can keep her alive, then she will just kill the boss very quickly. Obviously, Acrisia is the MVP boss killer because every ability does max HP. She's got that AoE 50% damage reduction, so keeping her alive is much easier. If you've got an Acrisia, she's probably going to find her way into these dungeons because I still think, even though it's capped at 10%, max HP is going to be the way to kill these bosses. Armiga, if you haven't got Acrisia, is actually one of the best max HP champions in the game because it's a 2-turn cooldown, which you can like put him in reflex. He's only got 2 abilities. It's really, really quick to get back around to that max HP nuke. I use him all the time in Dragon. It's very efficient. We've also got Orogrim and Badel and Tomb Lord here as kind of AoE solo poisoners. They're still pretty good at killing the boss. I should mention Mysiliac Priest Ornn as well. It's probably an upgraded Orogrim. I just got Orogrim on my mind because it's on my free-to-play. We also have Ninja as well. Ninja or Chronum. If you've gone and got your referrals, you didn't have Ninja. Chronum can do it very well, although not as efficiently as Ninja because Ninja's going to bloat his stats and he's also going to be able to reapply his burns, where Chronum will eventually run out of burns before he can reapply it. And we've also then finally got Theodore the Savant. Everyone knows if you can kill something with poison, Theodore's going to do it quicker than anyone else in the game because he activates the poison, doesn't consume them. So if you've got any of these champions, they might make the top 10 list for killing the boss when you get there. In some, depending on the boss you're fighting. You're probably not going to use Theodore and Frozen Banshee on Ice Golem, but you might use Theodore in the Fire Knight if you need to kill the waves. Like in my team, Theodore would be a massive upgrade to Dark Kael. So there you go, guys. A bit of a longer video than I originally planned, but these things always end up taking a while to figure out. I've already invested into Gory and Yakal because I think Fire Knight, that's the way you're going to have to go. I'll be curious to see how the waves get programmed, and I guess we're just going to have to wait and see when it's going to launch. We don't really know. They're not really very communicative these days in terms of big updates. Now, I'm still surprised we've cancelled Clan versus Clan. There doesn't seem to be any logic to it, but we'll have to see what happens. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what you plan on doing for these dungeons. Do you think I've missed any MVP champions that I should have called out? Have you taken any inspiration from the teams that I have suggested here? Again, I would like to add, I'm not saying these are the best teams. I'm saying these are the best teams for my account that I currently have that I think are the way to go forward. These will be the ones that I will test in video content and on stream. We'll be streaming tomorrow night. We'll be looking to try and prepare a bit more, get some more champions into a good position. Probably need to do a gear cleanse again because I have way too many artifacts and we need to sort them out. So yeah, if you want to hang out and you want to sort of ask me questions, you want to figure out your own teams, come head out on stream on this channel, 8 PM UK time tomorrow. But thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next video.